Are you a business owner or entrepreneur who's had great success in the business world, and now you want to launch a speaking career to share your message with the world? If that's you, then listen up. 25-year speaking industry veteran Brett Ridgway has released his latest special report, 3 key things entrepreneurs must master to build a profitable speaking business. To pick up your copy, go to brettridgway.com/freebie. Welcome to the Spotlight on Speaking show with Brett Ridgway, where you'll learn the keys to building a profitable speaking business from speaking industry pros. Each week, we interview a great guest who will share his or her speaking journey, identify what their keys to success have been, and highlight some critical mistakes they've made along the way that you'll want to avoid. Be sure to visit our website at spotlightonspeaking.com. And while you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, sit back, tune in, and get ready to meet this week's guest.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Spotlight on Speaking show with Brett Ridgway. I'm your host, and I'm excited to have as my guest today, Michele Molitor. Now, Michele is a master coach, a hypnotherapist, a speaker, and an author. She brings a wealth of experience to activate positive change in response to the pervasive mental health crisis we face today. Her mission as CEO of Nectar Consulting is to empower busy professionals to conquer anxiety, self-doubt, and toxic stress, paving the way for fulfilling lives and careers. She's affectionately known as the Mind Detective. Welcome, Michele, to the Spotlight on Speaking show.
Thank you, Brad, for having me. I'm delighted to be here with you today.
All right, so I want to dive right into your speaking journey, Michele, because I interview a lot of people on the show, and some of them are keynoters, some are platform sellers, some of them just use it for a business building tool. So first and foremost, how many years do we have to go back to where you decided that you needed to get in front of people to share your message?
Well, that's an excellent question. I've been coaching now for 23 years, in training people and getting up in front of rooms for quite some time. So I think it was just a natural segue from networking to presenting to getting up on stages. So I couldn't tell you exactly, but we'll say an estimated 20 years ago. How's that?
That close enough. So when you first started speaking, Michele, what was your go-to topic?
Back then, and I guess all throughout my career, it's really all about how do you overcome the negative self-talk, right? We all have those little people in our head. They're telling us, well, who are you? And why should you be talking about this? And is anybody going to listen to me? Right? All of that nonsense that can fester and develop into a full-blown case of imposter syndrome. So really, it's all about helping people release the negative mindsets that are holding them back so they can speak their authentic truth and share their message with the world.
Well, as I mentioned to you before the show, Michele, the Blue Angels are getting ready for performance there, and they just flew over my house right now. So I hope you didn't catch that on the microphone.
I didn't hear any of it, so I think we're good.
They were roaring by. So anyway, so I like to say that there are 3 primary types of speakers. Now, one could argue that there's more, but those 3 in my mind are the keynote speaker, obviously speak to an association or corporation and deliver a message, whether it's an hour, half an hour, whatever it may be. You have what I call your platform seller, who obviously delivers content and then it makes an offer of some type of continuing education or some other product from the stage. And then you have what I just call the business builder speaker. Maybe they're a chiropractor, an attorney, or whatever, and they're just speaking to local groups to build awareness of what they do so that hopefully when people have a need for what it is that they do, they'll come to them for that particular service or product. So which of those arenas have you played in, Michele, and which is your sweet spot, so to speak?
Well, that's a great question. And I'm like, check, 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 right? So I've spoken in all of those arenas in various ways, shapes, and forms. My next keynote that's coming up is actually with the University of California, Berkeley, for the Women the Women's Initiative and Leadership Conference coming up this fall. So I'm very, very excited about that. I'll be speaking about how perfectionism gets in our way and holds us back. So I've come to really love speaking. It's a way for me to share ideas. I'm a learning junkie, Brett, and I love to learn. And I have stacks of books all over my office. And for me, speaking is just a way to kind of give those nuggets of wisdom back to people who are listening and hope it can help enrich their lives.
So, which arena do you prefer to play in?
Oh, gosh. Um, They're all good in different ways. Speaking in front of groups live is always very invigorating and has its own little challenges because as my recovering inner perfectionist wants me to get it all just right and all the words in just the right order. So those challenge me, which I love a good challenge. So probably those but helping people in any of those realms is always good.
So, you mentioned the word perfectionism a couple of times, and I honestly believe that perfectionism has killed more good products than anything else because people lose momentum and it just goes by the wayside. I was involved with a group several years ago, created an outstanding product, but we had one team member that insisted on, crossing every T and dotting every I 35 times. The group lost momentum and the product never did what it could have done because perfectionism killed the whole flow of the thing or whatever. So if you have a speaker who is a perfectionist, what's your best advice to them on how to overcome that need to be perfect?
Sure. Well, in my new book that literally just launched a few weeks ago called I Am Perfectly Flossom, How Embracing Imperfection Makes Us Better. And in it, we talk about the difference between toxic perfectionism and striving for excellence. Toxic perfectionism is like what the team you went through. Um, that's a great example because toxic perfectionism not only takes a toll on our creativity and our productivity, it takes a toll on our physical well-being as well because we get ourselves so stressed out trying to make it just so, right? And there are
Mhm.
times when 100% accurate is really, really important. And in the realm of what we're discussing, the people in the audience don't know what you're not saying versus what you are saying, right? So it's about doing your very best every time and then learning from the the foibles, the bumps in the road, and then making it better and better each and every time so it just continues to elevate.
All right. So if you're going into, let's say, a keynote presentation, what do you do? What are the specific steps that you take to be best prepared for that specific presentation?
That's a great question. So I sit down and I write out my talk, my presentation. I map out my slides. I get all my talking points in order, and then I practice, and then I practice, and then I practice some more. Um, I also, because I like to get all the words in the right order, just so, I will record myself giving the talk, and then I will listen to it while I do other things. I'll listen to it while I go on a walk. I'll listen to it while I garden. I'll listen to it while I'm cleaning up around the house, whatever. Because the more you listen, the more those words get embedded and you start creating new neural pathways in your brain, right?
Mhm.
Your brain learns by repetition. So that's why the repetition of saying it out loud and saying it to yourself, listening to yourself makes a big difference.
All right. So for an up and coming speaker that is, working on that first signature speech and they're getting ready to go into a corporation or an association and deliver a talk, how much, let's just say, customization should they be prepared to do for that specific audience, in your opinion?
Well, I think customization is really important because you want to be able to land in the listening of your participants, right? You want to make it relevant to them so they sit up and they lean in versus sitting back and tuning out on their phones, right? So using particular language or jargon that is appropriate for their industry, right? Or addressing challenges or issues that their team or their company may be dealing with brings it present for the folks who are in the audience so they can really take that information to heart.
I mean, it's common to talk about the pain points of an audience. So how do you find out what those pain points really are so that you can deliver the best presentation for them?
I typically like to have a conversation with the champion in the organization who's sponsoring the talk,
Mhm.
and find out from them why are you bringing me in now to have this conversation? Um, what's relevant about my talk to your audience? What are the challenges or issues that your team is faced with so that I can help speak to those issues more directly in the talk, so that it lands really effectively for them?
So aside from preparing as best as possible for a presentation, what are some other tips for being successful as a speaker that you would want to pass along to an up and coming speaker?
Well, this is a probably dirty little secret that you haven't told them yet, Brett, but you can't just go, okay, I'm ready to talk, right? You've got to learn how to market yourself effectively, through different social media channels, and find the resources that can help get your name out there in different ways. And there's different, probably far more than I do actually, on how to get yourself connected with those different speaking sources so that your name, your topic, comes up when somebody's looking for it.
So what marketing channels are working best for you these days, Michele?
I typically am just using social media. So I'm on LinkedIn pretty heavily, Facebook, Instagram, and I was using for a while a service to help get me on podcast interviews, which worked really, really well until I had a lot. So I have probably 200 plus interviews that I've done now, over the last couple of years, and those have all led to new clients, and they've all led to new speaking engagements.
That's cool. So on the flip side, what hasn't worked for you? What have you tried marketing wise that just didn't bring the bang for the buck that it should have?
Um, Well, several years ago, I did some paid ads, right,
Mhm.
through Meta. Um, and I didn't know what I didn't know about it. And I trusted the person that I'd hired to do it. And I spent a whole lot of money and I didn't get a whole lot of results. And that was really, really frustrating. It really kept me out of that arena for many years. Um, but I literally was just on a call this morning with my team. I have a new online course that we're launching on a Monday, which is super exciting. And they are masters in that realm, and I trust them implicitly with running the ads and monitoring the results and adjusting as we go.
All right, super. So I had some other questions I'd like to ask you, Michele, but before we do, let's take a quick break for a word from our sponsor.
Are you a business owner or entrepreneur who's had great success in the business world, and now you want to launch a speaking career to share your message with the world? If that's you, then listen up. 25-year speaking industry veteran Brett Ridgway has released his latest special report, 3 key things entrepreneurs must master to build a profitable speaking business. To pick up your copy, go to brettridgway.com/freebie.
And we're back with my guest, Michele Molitor. And Michele, one of my favorite questions I always ask my guest is, okay, it's bare your soul time here a little bit, and tell me a mistake that you made during your speaking career that left you a bit red-faced at the time, but a valuable lesson was learned, and it would be something that you'd highly advise others not to do.
Oh gosh. couple different things come to mind. Well, the first and foremost is don't get sick before you have to go give a
Well, that may or may
presentation.
not be beyond your control.
I know. That happened to me actually just on the first of this month. I'm like, oh, and I was like, so yay for head cold medicine, saving grace. And you do the best that you can do with the brain that you have on the day that you have it,
Right.
right? But yeah, I can think back, and I don't think I've ever had too many like major flubs. I tend to be a little klutzy, so stumbling my way up the stairs once, that was pretty, right in my wheelhouse. It's
Yeah,
like,
we've
okay.
all done that. So maybe something you've seen another speaker do that you said, "Oh my gosh, what were they thinking when they did that?"
Well, another thing that happened for me was you get that moment where your brain freezes
Hmm.
and you're like, suddenly your amygdala hijacks your brain for reasons unknown, right in the middle of what you're saying. You're like, it, mm, it sounds like first syllable, you know, and so you just have to find a way to kind of laugh it off and recover gracefully and keep rolling with the punches. It's like I had a flashback to back when I was in high school, and I was we had a big open quad area, and it was raining, and I had an armful of books like stacked high, and I'm trying to run across the quad so I don't get wet or too wet anyway. And of course I trip and I fall and I scoop up my books, and I kept running like nothing had happened. Even though everybody in school saw me, right? So
Well,
it's one of
cool.
those moments, but with words.
All right. So one of the things that you talk about is how to overcome imposter syndrome, and that's something obviously many speakers deal with. So give us a few tips for how to deal with that challenge if that's one that you're facing as a speaker.
Sure. Well, the first thing to remember is that we are all perfectly flawed and awesome in every moment of every day. We are flawsome, right? And it's when our self doubt gets kicked up that imposter syndrome starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger, right? And so when our self doubt kicks in at these high levels, your amygdala is trying to protect you. Your amygdala is part of your brain, two little almond-sized bits. And I like to call her Amy. Amy G. Dalla is your amygdala. And she just wants to keep you safe and alive and on the planet, right? And so when your amygdala hijacks your brain, your logical thinking brain can literally go offline for a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes. So the best thing you can do is say, thank you for sharing, Amy. I've got this, right? We're safe. There are no saber-toothed tigers coming to eat us, right? And it's about resetting and getting yourself back in the present moment, reminding yourself that you are enough, that you are an expert at what you do, whatever that looks like. Because remember, you know more about your topic than probably 99% of the people in the room, right? So bearing that in mind can help you get unstuck and keep moving forward, so that you can find your way through it and get into your flow, right? Get into your flow state so that you can just share what you have to share and it'll land just the way it needs to land.
So your new book again is titled what and where can people go find that?
It is called I Am Perfectly Flawsome: How Embracing Imperfection Makes Us Better, co-authored with my dear friend Tom Collins. And it's based on the Japanese philosophy is kintsugi, which is all about taking something that's broken and imperfect and mending it with lacquer and gold dust. So it is then more beautiful than the original piece and more valuable. So when we can embrace our imperfections and realize they make us wiser and more unique, then it helps lift us up and elevate our message than holding us back and having us shield our message. And so folks can go out to Amazon and Barnes & Noble booksellers to find it. And through the end of, today it's the Kindle version's on sale, but I think it's going up sometime soon. So
it'll be what it'll be. So we'll put links to that book down in the show notes below. Now, can they get it on your own website too, Michele? Because I'd rather send them directly to your website than to Amazon.
Well, they can all go directly to IamPerfectlyFlawsome.com. You can read more about it, read the reviews, and there you'll find the links to Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
All right. So we'll send them there. So any final words of wisdom for an aspiring speaker, Michele?
Well, I think it's really important to remember that you've got this, and believe in yourself, trust in yourself, and know that it all will unfold just as it's meant to.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Michele, for joining me today on this episode of the Spotlight on Speaking show. I wish you the greatest of success in all that you do. And to all my listeners out there, thank you for being with us today. And may this year be your greatest year yet. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
This has been the Spotlight on Speaking show with Brett Ridgway. Be sure to join us every week as we interview speaking industry pros and have them share their best tips for building a profitable speaking business. Until next week, thank you for tuning in, and remember to visit our website at spotlightonspeaking.com so you can enjoy even more great episodes like this one. While you're here, be sure to subscribe via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Spotlight on Speaking show. Until then, our sincere best wishes to you for the greatest of success as you work to build your own profitable speaking business.